Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Happy Gilmore. I haven't swung a club in years.
You know what you gotta do.
Grip it and rip it.
Or... Oh, now that is some Happy Gilmore.
Everyone is talking about the comeback kid, Happy Gilmore.
Happening.
Yeah, baby.
Happy Gilmore 2, only on Netflix July 25th. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13.
Encore une fois.
This is the inside story of Paris 2024. 1 year on, one more time.
After the Paris 2024 show, the Paris 2024 sport starts. It's a bronze medal in the women's 3-metre synchro, and it's the first ever medal in this competition for Great Britain for Team GB. So history here at the new Aquatic Centre next to the Stade de France.
This is Encore Une Fois, the inside Paris story from Anything But Footy. 1 year on, one more time. And for over the next 16 days, we are going to be revisiting each and every Team GB medal and looking back at our Paris 2024 Olympic Games experience. So we're here now, day one, Saturday, the 27th of July. And where was Great Britain's first medal going to come from? Well, John knew because he'd been plotting it all along.
Well, we'd worked really hard at trying to work out where we thought we would win medals. Now, we had a great relationship, I think, with all of the national governing bodies and the media leads and commercial comms people, and just working out where are we gonna pick these medals up. And we had a feeling, didn't we, that diving was going to be certainly the place to be on that first morning. And you were going to go cycling in the afternoon. We knew with British Cycling, we'd sat down with Stephen Park, and he'd given us some names that we need to keep an eye on. We worked it out really from a diving point of view on the fact that they announced the synchro squad quite early, didn't they? The British Aquatics GB. And they'd done really well at the Worlds. They'd made history. They'd won medals that they'd never won before in the World Championships. And ultimately, you know that China are going to dominate the gold medals. I think they won every single gold medal in Paris 2024. But could Britain continue in its place of being the second best diving nation in the world? Which, when you think 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was not even something we even considered doing. But we knew that we had a chance. But it was a chance, and that was it. So I went to the diving centre. It's a brand new swimming pool set up near the Stade de France. It's opened up to the French public now. Saint Denis is where the Stade de France is, as many people know, and where the diving centre was. And it was a long walk through lots of concrete buildings, and you eventually walked all the way around and got there and came into the centre. And it's a superb setup. And what you really don't understand with diving is how noisy it was. I can remember getting there early, and the divers were all practicing. They're already in there. But you just can't think because it's so noisy. But then what I find really interesting is it's so quiet when they're about to dive. And when you're trying to do radio, you really have to kind of whisper. And I can remember working out where I could sit. I got kicked out of one seat because I was, and because of China, there's so many media there. And as broadcasters, I was allowed to be there and I was allowed to broadcast. But finding a space where I could do that was eye-opening. Probably for day one, it was probably the eye-opening lesson of the games is, well, where do you broadcast from? We have the rights to do it. Where should we do it? And some people are really helpful. Haribo sweets, I mentioned them in the last episode. They are very, very useful for working out where you could go. Where could you go in the mix zone? Could you do it from there? Could you see the TVs? But you wanted a bit of the atmosphere, so you wanted to be in the venue. So I moved about 2 or 3 different seats. And I can remember broadcasting on TalkSport Saturday morning. I think it was Danny Kelly on. It was the first kind of real first. I hadn't really done that much on TalkSport, and it was the first kind of, well, this is what's going to happen today. Here's where we think the medal's going to be, and the diving medal came. And I think the first medal in the hardest event in women's diving, that's the 3-meter synchro, to get a medal for Yasmin Harper and Scarlett Mew Jensen, 23-year-olds, supported by Tom Daley. Tom Daley was in the crowd. He was there supporting him. And that was important from a media point of view that he could be there. It was just a fantastic moment and a great start to the games. Saturday morning, first day, first medal. We knew we would win it because they were world championship medalists. But we only really did because Australia didn't quite nail their 4th dive. And that was really important because at that point, Britain were going to finish 4th or 5th. But Australia didn't nail. I won't say they failed or flopped it because that's disrespectful. They just didn't deliver what they probably knew they should. And the British girls went on and carried on doing what they did, and they got that medal. So it was quite a moment to be there and get that interview in the mix zone. I'd kind of set myself up in the mix zone because I was doing lives and stuff, but I saw the girls coming in, and Josh from British Swimming was like, come quickly round, and we did it. Got a photo because that's really important in the world of radio these days. Got a photo, got a medal, job done.
Yeah, and it was historic as well because obviously we always talk, don't we, about Great Britain being notoriously slow starters. And I remember, as you said, I was somewhere else that morning. I was heading to the cycling, but I remember listening to you and thinking that you had an absolute handle on the detail of how important this opening day medal was because it's so rare. From a British point of view, it was the first opening day medal since 20 years before Athens, 2000. And I remember listening to you thinking you'd absolutely nailed that bit of detail, which, you know, when you get into reporting and commentating on the Olympics, people find quite important.
Yeah, it is. And I think the thing is just trying to make it easy to understand because no one's going to sit there and go, well, Yasmin and Scarlett, their twists and turns weren't quite good enough there, or you just try and make it relevant to the people that you're talking to. And there was excitement. I think that was the thing that I loved about it. It was just exciting. Although I did spend the rest of the day sitting in the media centre outside. It was pouring with rain again, which you were outside again. There was a good theme here. I was always safely tucked away indoors, and
I was
you were
on
outside
that bridge
for the cycling. But I do remember being in that media centre in St Denis and going, what is that noise? It was in the afternoon. I was doing updates on what else was going on. I was like, it's like this thunder and rumble. And I thought it was the weather. No, of course it wasn't. We were next to the Stade de France, and France went on that night to win. Dupont inspired the rugby sevens, the men's rugby sevens. The Stade de France was literally throbbing, and you could hear the rumble just sitting outside in the media venue of the diving. It was a great way. I thought it was a great way to start my my Olympic journey. I really did enjoy that first day.
And I really enjoyed listening to you speaking to Scarlett and Yasmin as well. I think you did a really nice, just lovely chat with them. And, your excitement was obvious. You were there for the first medal, and their excitement was obvious as well. And I think they didn't quite know how to feel, I think, at times, but they described it as being nuts.
Here we are then, with Great Britain's first medalists of Paris 2024. Scarlett and Yasmin, what do you reckon?
Nuts. Couldn't be happier. I think both of us, I'm still in shock.
We were stood there just thinking we've got to give it all we've got now if we want to be in the mix, and we were able to do that, so I'm really proud of us. So the first medal was won. Team GB were up and running.
In the confusion of the end of the opening ceremony on the previous night, I had inadvertently taken back with me to my hotel, which was a different hotel to my colleague Katie Shanahan's hotel, some of her kit, which was,
that was nice of you.
Kind of awkward. I think because it had been so wet the night before, and basically we'd only managed to finish our broadcast of the opening ceremony by combining bits of kit from other reporters and commentators along the route. We had like the last remaining wires working just to stay on for that moment where the flame was lit. So I'd ended up with some of Katie's kit. Now, she was going to be at the swimming on that first morning. I think maybe for Adam Peaty, if memory serves, was in a heat. And so she panicked, messaged me saying, I can't broadcast, I can't get on the radio because you've got some of my cables from last night, which I'd actually sort of lent out over the radiator to try and dry them off a little bit in my hotel room. So I had to make a dash out before I went to the cycling to La Défense Arena, which was the swimming venue, which actually is ordinarily a rugby venue, and they put a temporary swimming pool in the middle of it. And when they have the rugby there, what they do at the end of the matches is the pitch becomes a bar, and everyone dives forward and is able to enjoy a couple of Parisian pints at the end of the rugby. But they had the swimming pool in there, and I'm glad actually I got there just for that morning session and saw a little bit of the swimming, because otherwise I wouldn't have seen any of the swimming at the games, because swimming wasn't one of the sports that I was down to do and to cover. That was going to be Katie's job. And then also I bumped into Dame Kelly Holmes, who was there. So she had gone to the swimming that first morning, and she'd obviously was part of the coverage for TalkSport, and she was with us for the duration. And she was like, well, where are you going now? What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to go to the cycling. It's time trials today. John's got the first medal. I think we might get the first gold medal, which was Josh Tarling, because Stephen Park, performance director at British Cycling, had said Josh Tarling could win gold in the time trials, a very good chance. And there was also an outside chance, I think, that Anna Henderson was going to win a medal in the women's race as well. So I said, I'm off to the Pont Alexandre Trois Bridge again. To sit outside in the rain.
Should have just left your equipment there.
And I ended up, so Dame Kelly said, well, I'll come with you. So I ended up getting this metro journey through Paris with Dame Kelly Holmes, which was a rather surreal moment, I've got to say. I'd met her a couple of times before. She'd been, I think, president of Team England around Glasgow 2014 and the Commonwealth Games. So we'd met a couple of times. We'd obviously done the opening ceremony stuff together, but in different locations. And there I was, just on a metro train, just with Dame Kelly Holmes, winner of 2 gold medals from Athens, just heading to the cycling. As we were leaving, she went, I want to grab a few pictures. And because she was just so super excited to be at the games and be part of the TalkSport team. And she was determined to get around to as many different things. And if you followed her Instagram during that time, she was videoing and pictures. She just wanted to remember it.
She's a double Olympic champion. It was one of the iconic moments of British sport when she did the double in Athens. I can't believe that she hasn't been involved in the Olympics as much. Because you said, I managed to grab a few words with her. She just absolutely loved the experience, just being part of it, didn't she?
And she's so knowledgeable as well. So if you think about Phoebe Gill, we'll talk more about the athletes later on in this series, but 17-year-old Phoebe Gill was being mentored by her. Keely Hodgkinson and Kelly Holmes had got to know each other really, really well. And that's a story for a future episode. We won't spoil that one now. So, yeah, it was just amazing that someone with all her know-how and experience and all that she's achieved in the sport, and all that knowledge that she has, that she was able to share with us on the radio, not just about the athletics, but just about what it's like to be in that Olympic environment. Yeah, I'm like you. I can't believe that people have not lent on Dame Kelly Holmes more in that broadcast environment, shall we say? I can't
and
believe
also just the fact. I mean, I remember her being on stage in Trafalgar Square. I was there as well when we won the Olympic bid in 2005 for the 2012 games. But and she was part of that initial kind of build up to 2012. But she weren't really involved at all in 2012. You think back at it's not really in the big scheme of things for a double Olympic champion in athletics, not the biggest and best sport in the Olympics, as they always tell us. And I was amazed, and what I just loved about it, she just the enthusiasm of her. That was what it was so good. And I remember talking to her at the opening ceremony. She was on air, and we were chit chatting about back and forth. And she, as you said, just so knowledgeable and why she was not involved previously, I've no idea.
And just got involved in with the team, didn't she? She just mucked in. And the opening ceremony night was a long night. She was looking forward to Celine Dion. I know that. I remember listening to her on the radio. She's like, at last, this is what I've been waiting for, Celine Dion. So there we were, me and Dame Kelly on the Metro. So just chatting, working out where we were going to get a bite to eat together, and I was just like, this is amazing. And I thought when I was heading to the cycling, so it was the time trials, that I was going to see the first gold. I thought we were going to get a gold with Josh Tarling, but you remember he had a mechanical issue. Ended up finishing fourth, and without that mechanical, I think he probably would have won that first gold. Weather was appalling. And so we had the men's race and then we had the women's race. So obviously I hung on for Anna Henderson, who I think was more of an outside chance. We had her on the list, that there was definitely a possibility. That's why we were there, because of the planning. And I can remember watching that time trial, and we had so many cyclists before her who were falling over because of the weather. They were skidding over, there were crashes, and she didn't take it slow and steady. Of course she didn't take it slow and steady, but she was controlled. That's a better word. And I remember speaking to her at the end saying, were you being told what was happening up ahead of you? Because there were certain corners where literally everyone was crashing and she didn't. And she got round, and that's why she won a silver medal. And so we had your bronze at the diving on the opening day of competition, and then a silver at the cycling. And you and I were there. And she actually did say to me, she says, no, they didn't tell me what was happening up ahead because they just want to give her the information that she needs. She has an earpiece during the time trial to the kind of coaching setup. She said they don't want to overload her with information, or they set her out to do what they planned, and all that they were giving her was the information to help her undertake that plan. And it obviously worked because she won that silver medal.
So bronze and a silver first day. I wonder though, in hindsight, whether that was an indication of what kind of became apparent over the days to come, that actually winning a gold medal at Paris 2024 from a Team GB point of view was a tough thing to do, because also that day you saw Charlie Davidson lose in the first round of the boxing, and in the bantamweight, and of course boxing, we know, got one medal in the end, but didn't have a great games. Great British hockey, I thought the men, didn't they? They thrashed Spain on day one, 4-0, biggest Olympic win since 1948 for Team GB. We all thought, wow, the hockey's going to be an amazing place to be. Didn't quite work out that way. So I do wonder whether day one gave us a bit of an indication in hindsight.
Yeah, we probably didn't realise it at the time, as you say. But yeah, it maybe was just the blueprint of how things were going to unfold. And over the next few days, we didn't get that Josh Tarling gold. But the silver and the bronze
were
medals,
a great start.
Fantastic start. As we said, first opening day medals for 20 years. And I think Team GB would have been pretty happy at that point in proceedings.
Particularly, as you mentioned in the last episode, which we didn't really talk too much about, but about the Charlotte Dujardin and the scandals, really, in that week up to the opening ceremony. Team GB were under pressure for going into a games where we talked to so many athletes about this being like an effective home games, but they were under pressure that week going into day one.
Yeah, and there's that news vacuum, isn't there, that exists before an Olympic Games. It always happens where there's a lot of these stories that once the sport begins, just don't get the same level of attention. And actually, in the build up to Paris, there were a lot of big and important stories. And we talked in the previous episode about security. That was one, and obviously the Charlotte Dujardin story where she was filmed hitting horses, and subsequently got kicked off the team, and quite right too. So there had been, some big news events and big news stories in the build up. But what we always find at the opening few days of the Olympics, or what we had found before, silly stories get undue prominence. A missing bag suddenly is the lead story on the news bulletin because we haven't won a medal yet. So we need to talk about something. And so we'd had the big stories in the build up, but we didn't get, I don't think, that little flurry of the silly news stories because Team GB were underway. They were winning medals. So we were talking about that.
Yeah, and it was still raining in Paris. Don't forget, there was no play at Roland Garros for much of the day because in the tennis because of the wet weather. And again, as we continue this look back on Paris 2024, you remember the hot sunny days of the Olympics and the Paralympics, but those first few days were pretty wet and horrible. So it's interesting to see that Britain at least started strongly, as did the French, as we mentioned. And you need a home gold medal early doors, and Dupont certainly delivered that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think you do need the host nation to have a good games, and the French are off to an absolute flyer with Dupont as well. Going over as well, he was. The way they used him in the rugby sevens was he would come on for like the second half. And remember, it sort of not done a Six Nations campaign with the 15s. He'd put this entire focus on winning this Olympic gold medal. That's how much it meant to him. And, when you talk about the pinnacle of the sport, and that's a thing that often gets used. Is it the pinnacle of the sport? Sport shouldn't be in the Olympics unless it's the pinnacle. There's nothing in the Olympic values that say it has to be the pinnacle of the sport. So I think it's a nonsense thing to say. I think it's a lazy thing that people use when they say golfers shouldn't be there, tennis shouldn't be there because it's not the pinnacle of the sport. Rugby sevens has grown in importance since its introduction, of course, in Rio. Great Britain won medals. The men won the silver medal in Rio at the Diodora Stadium, and it's grown in importance to become the sevens pinnacle of the sport. But in terms of rugby, it's not the pinnacle of the sport. But for Antoine Dupont, that opportunity to win a gold medal in Paris at home Olympics, you tell me that he's done anything else in his career. In the Stade de France, where, remember, in the 15s, they'd lost in the Rugby World Cup when France had hosted previously. So this for him was that chance to get that pinnacle, that moment for him, the best moment of his career, I would say.
Day one was done. Day two, we were off to the rowing lake and the canoe slalom as well. Certainly I was. Where were you in day two?
Well, I made a debut as a tennis commentator because there was play at Roland Garros. So more about that on the next episode.
This is Encore Une Fois, the inside Paris story from Anything But Footy, 1 year on from the Paris 2024 Games.
Encore Une Fois, Paris 2024, one more time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.